The doctor passed me a secret note. It said, "Don't go home, run." That night I discovered my own family was planning to lock me in a nursing home to steal everything from me. But what they didn't know is that I had a secret that would change their lives forever. My name is Martha. I'm 70 years old, and for 45 years I believed I had raised a loving son. Michael came into my life when he was just 2 years old, an abandoned child that my husband and I adopted with all the love in the world. I gave him everything: education, affection, sacrifices, my best years. When my husband died 10 years ago, Michael became my only family, along with his wife Vanessa and my granddaughter Sarah. But that Tuesday, during what should have been a routine doctor's appointment, my world fell apart. Dr. Evans, my trusted doctor for years, examined me as usual, but something in his behavior seemed strange. His hands trembled slightly as he checked my blood pressure, and he avoided my direct gaze. "Everything is fine, Mrs. Martha," he said with a tense voice. "Your tests are perfect, your heart is strong, you have many years of life ahead of you." But when I got up to leave, I felt him approach from behind. Suddenly, while I was picking up my purse, Dr. Evans discreetly slipped a folded piece of paper into the bottom of my bag. He did it so quickly, I almost didn't notice. "Take good care of yourself, Mrs. Martha," he said with a forced smile. "And remember, family isn't always what it seems." His words sent a chill down my spine. What did he mean by that? Why had he given me that paper so secretly? I left the office with my heart racing, but I decided not to read the note until I got home. During the taxi ride, 1,000 thoughts crossed my mind. Dr. Evans had never acted so strangely. He was a serious professional man who had known my family since Michael was a teenager. Why was he giving me secret messages now? When I got home, Michael was in the living room with Vanessa and Sarah. The three of them were talking in low voices, but they fell silent abruptly when they saw me walk in. Vanessa was holding several papers that she quickly hid behind her back. "How was the doctor's visit, Mom?" Michael asked me with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Everything's fine, son. The doctor says I'm perfect," I replied, trying to sound normal. Vanessa exchanged a look with Michael that didn't go unnoticed. Why did they seem disappointed? Were they hoping the doctor would tell me I was sick? "That's great," Grandma Sarah said, but her voice sounded strangely cold. "It means you have a lot of time ahead of you to enjoy." That night during dinner, I noticed my family was acting very strangely. Michael barely spoke to me. Vanessa answered in monosyllables, and Sarah avoided my gaze. There was a tension in the air you could cut with a knife. "Is something wrong?" I finally asked. "No, Mom. Everything is fine," Michael answered quickly. "We're just tired." After dinner, I went to my room with a heavy heart. Something was definitely going on, and Dr. Evans' note was starting to make sense. With trembling hands, I took the paper out of my purse and unfolded it. What I read took my breath away. "Mrs. Martha, your family was here yesterday. Vanessa asked me about your mental state and if I could certify that you need special care. They want to put you in a nursing home. They also asked about your inheritance and assets. Don't go home. Run, Dr. Evans." My hands started to shake uncontrollably. My own family. The son I raised with so much love. The daughter-in-law I treated like a daughter. My granddaughter, who was always my pride and joy. Suddenly, it all started to make sense. The strange looks, the whispers, the hidden papers. They weren't disappointed because I was in good health. They were furious because the doctor hadn't cooperated with their plans. I couldn't sleep that night. Every noise in the house made me jump. I stayed awake listening, trying to understand how I had gotten to this point. How was it possible that the family I had sacrificed everything for was now conspiring against me? At 2 a.m, I heard voices in the kitchen. I got up silently and approached my bedroom door. I could clearly hear Michael, Vanessa, and Sarah talking in low voices, but loud enough for me to understand every word. "The damn doctor didn't want to cooperate," Vanessa said with irritation. I explained to him that the old woman is losing her mind, that sometimes she doesn't recognize anyone that she leaves the gas on. But he insisted that she's perfectly fine. "Relax, my love," Michael replied. We'll find another doctor, one who's willing to sign the papers we need." "But in the meantime, what do we do with her?" Sarah asked. "I've already reserved my spot at the university in the United States. I need that money now, not in 5 years when she dies of old age." "Sarah, don't talk like that." Michael scolded her, but without conviction. "Although you're right, we need to act fast. The house is worth almost $500,000, and with her pension and savings we could live comfortably until she dies," Vanessa completed coldly. "Look, I didn't come into this family to take care of a senile old woman. I married you because I thought you would inherit soon. But 10 years have passed and she's still here spending our money." "Our money," I repeated in silence, feeling rage begin to build in my chest. All my money earned with the sweat of my brow and my late husband's they saw as theirs. "Tomorrow I'm going to talk to the lawyer," Michael continued. "I'm going to ask him if we can declare her incompetent without needing a doctor. There must be some way. And if that doesn't work," Vanessa added, "we can always make her life impossible until she decides to go to a nursing home herself. Take away her TV, don't cook for her, treat her like what she is, a burden." "Mom, don't be so cruel," Sarah said, but then added, "Although the truth is, I'm tired of pretending I love her. She's always there meddling in our conversations, asking why we're late. It's unbearable." My legs began to tremble. I leaned against the wall, feeling my world crumbling around me. These were the people I had worked 18 hours a day for when Michael was little. The ones for whom I had given up my dreams, my friendships, my own life. "Remember my sweet 16, Sarah continued. "She bought me that horrible red dress and forced me to wear it. All my friends made fun of me. From that day on, I swore I'd make her pay. And what bothers me most," Vanessa added, "is that she's always bragging about what a good mother she was, about everything she sacrificed for Michael, as if she were a saint. But the truth is, she adopted him because she couldn't have her own children. She used him to fill her void." "That's enough," Michael said, but his voice sounded tired, not indignant. "Look, in a week I'm going to talk to her. I'll tell her we found a very nice nursing home, that it will be better for her to be with people her own age. And if she refuses, we'll use Plan B." "What's Plan B?" Sarah asked. "We'll drive her crazy for real," Michael replied coldly. "We'll switch her medications, hide her things, tell her she did things she didn't do. In a month, any doctor will certify that she's insane." The horror of his words hit me like a punch. They didn't just want to rob me, they wanted to destroy my mind, my dignity, my sanity. They wanted to turn me into what they claimed I already was. "It's perfect," Vanessa said excitedly. "And once she's committed, we'll have access to all her accounts. We can sell the house, collect her pension, use everything without anyone bothering us." "Exactly," Michael confirmed. "And the best part is, no one will suspect a thing. To the outside world, we're the perfect family lovingly caring for the sick grandmother." They laughed. The three of them laughed as if they had told the funniest joke in the world. They laughed at me, at my naivety, at my unconditional love for them. In that moment, something inside me broke. It wasn't my heart that was already shattered, since I read Dr. Evans's note. What broke was my blind faith in goodness, my belief that love is always returned, my conviction that family is sacred. "Tomorrow morning, I'm going to make copies of all her cards," Vanessa whispered. "That way we can start spending little by little without her noticing." "Great," Michael approved. "And I'm going to review all her papers. There has to be a will somewhere that we can modify." "Modify how?" Sarah asked. "Let's just say that Grandma, in her mental confusion, decided to leave everything to us, because we're the only ones who take care of her," Michael explained with a smile in his voice. "Dad, you're a genius," Sarah said admiringly. "But we have to be careful. If anyone suspects anything—" "No one is going to suspect anything," Vanessa reassured her. "She has no friends, no family besides us. She's a lonely old woman who depends completely on us. Who's going to defend her?" They were right. I had no close friends. I had lost touch with most of them when I dedicated myself completely to raising Michael. I had no siblings. My parents had died years ago. I was completely vulnerable. But what they didn't know, what they had never bothered to find out, was that I had a secret a secret that would completely change the balance of power in this situation. When my husband died, he left me more than love and memories. He left me an inheritance I had kept hidden all these years. $2 million in a Swiss bank account that only I knew about, plus 3 properties abroad that he had bought as an investment. I never told Michael because I wanted to be sure he loved me for who I was, not for what I had. I wanted him to build his own life to be independent. But now I realized I had been a fool. He had never loved me. He had only been waiting patiently for me to die to inherit the little he thought I had. Well, Michael finally said, I think everything is clear. Tomorrow we put the plan into action, and remember, in front of her we have to keep being the loving family we've always been. Of course, Vanessa replied. I'm an excellent actress. I can pretend to love her a little longer. I heard their footsteps moving away towards their rooms. I stood there, paralyzed, with Dr. Evans' note clutched in my hand. He was right, I had to run. But I wasn't going to run like a scared victim. I was going to run like a woman who had just woken up from a 45-year dream. I was going to run to plan the most perfect revenge they could ever imagine. I spent the rest of the night planning. I didn't sleep a minute, but for the first time in months, I felt completely awake. I knew I had to act fast and smart. They had underestimated the senile old woman, but they would soon discover they had awakened the wrong woman. At 5 a.m, when I was sure everyone was asleep, I quietly took out my smallest suitcase and packed only the essentials: personal documents, a few changes of clothes, my medications, and most importantly, the small notebook where I had written down all the details of my secret accounts. Before leaving, I decided to do something that would give me an advantage later. I took out my phone and turned on the recorder. Then I pretended I had forgotten something and walked back through the house, making sure to pass near Michael and Vanessa's room. As I expected, they were already awake, whispering about their plans for the day. Vanessa was talking about making copies of my cards, while Michael mentioned his appointment with the lawyer to ask about declaring me incompetent. Do you think she suspects anything? Vanessa asked worriedly. Impossible, Michael replied. She's too old and trusting. Besides, what could she do? She has nowhere to go, no money of her own, no friends. We're all she has. It's pathetic, Vanessa added with contempt. A 70-year-old woman who depends completely on us. Sometimes I feel sorry for her, but then I remember she chose this life. She could have remarried after her husband died, but she preferred to stay here being the perfect grandmother. And now she's going to pay for that decision, Michael concluded coldly. Perfect. I had recorded enough material to sync them later. I put the phone away and finished getting ready to leave. I left a note on the kitchen table, went out to do some shopping. Back later. Martha. I knew they wouldn't suspect anything. After all, a senile old woman couldn't be planning a strategic escape. I took a taxi to the nearest bank. It was Wednesday morning, and I knew I had a few hours before my family realized something was wrong. At the bank, I withdrew a considerable amount of cash and verified that my secret accounts were intact. The teller, a young woman named Patricia, looked at me curiously when I asked to withdraw $10,000 in cash. "Are you sure, ma'am, that's a lot of money to carry in cash?" she said with genuine concern. "Completely sure," I replied firmly. "I have some personal matters to resolve." After the bank, I took another taxi to the most elegant hotel in the city. I knew I needed a place where I could feel safe while I planned my next moves. The Grand Hotel was perfect, discreet, comfortable, and with services that would allow me to maintain my privacy. "How long will you be with us?" the receptionist asked an elegant woman in her 40s. "I'm not sure," I replied. "It could be a week. It could be several months. It depends on how certain family matters unfold." She nodded with professional understanding and assigned me a suite on the 10th floor. As I went up in the elevator, I felt a mix of terror and excitement. For the first time in decades, I was making decisions just for myself. The suite was beautiful, spacious, with a view of the city, elegantly decorated and equipped with everything I needed. I sat on the living room sofa, and for the first time since the previous night, I allowed my emotions to wash over me. I cried. I cried for the 45 years I had dedicated to raising a son who saw me as an obstacle. I cried for the humiliations I had endured without realizing it. I cried for the woman I had been before becoming the perfect grandmother they despised. But after crying, I dried my tears and started planning. I took out my notebook and began to list everything I needed to do. First, contact my financial advisors in Switzerland to activate my accounts. Second, hire the best lawyer in the city. Third, find a private investigator who could help me document everything my family had done and was planning to do. At 2 p.m, my phone started ringing. It was Michael. "Mom, where are you?" "It's 2 p.m, and you haven't come back." His voice sounded worried, but I could detect the irritation beneath the concern. "I'm fine, son," I replied calmly. "I decided to take a day for myself. It's been a long time." "A day for yourself? What does that mean?" "Where are you exactly?" Now his voice sounded clearly annoyed. "I'm in the city doing some things I had pending." I lied partially. "Don't worry, I'll be back when I'm done." "Mom, this isn't normal for you. You always let us know where you're going. Vanessa is worried. And Sarah, too. We need to know where you are." For the first time in years, I detected something in his voice that surprised me. Panic. He wasn't worried about my well-being. He was worried because he had lost control over me. "You know what, Michael?" I said with a calm that surprised even myself. "I'm 70 years old. I think I'm old enough to make my own decisions about where to go and what to do." There was a silence on the other end of the line. "Mom, you're worrying me. You don't sound like yourself." "Are you taking your medication?" he asked, and in that question, I could hear the beginning of his strategy. He was already planting the seed that I wasn't mentally well. "I'm perfectly fine, son. I've never been better," I replied and hung up. I immediately turned off my phone. I knew they would call me obsessively, and I needed peace to do what I had to do. That afternoon, I hired the most prestigious law firm in the city. The lead attorney, a man in his 50s, named Mr. Grant Meyer, received me personally when I mentioned the amount of money I was willing to pay for his services. "I need complete legal protection," I explained. "My family is trying to have me declared incompetent to take control of my assets, but I have recordings that prove it's a conspiracy." Mr. Meyer listened attentively as I played the recordings I had made that morning. His expression grew more and more serious. "Mrs. Martha, this is very serious," he finally said. "What your family is planning constitutes elder abuse conspiracy to commit fraud and potentially document forgery. We could prosecute them criminally." "That's exactly what I want," I replied with determination. "But I need to do it strategically. I want them to pay, but I want it to be in the most painful way possible for them." Mr. Myers smiled. It was the smile of a man who had found a case he liked. "Mrs. Martha, I think you and I are going to work very well together," he said. "I'm going to assign my best team to your case, but I need you to tell me everything, absolutely everything." I told him about adopting Michael, about my husband, about the years of sacrifice, about the secret inheritance, about everything. Mr. Meyer took careful notes. "Do you know exactly how much money you have in your secret accounts?" he asked. $2,200,000 in cash, plus 3 properties abroad, worth about $1.5 million more, I replied. Mr. Meyer stopped writing and looked at me with renewed respect. "Mrs. Martha, you are not just a victim of family abuse. You are a very powerful woman who has been underestimated by her family. We are going to use that power to teach them the lesson of their lives." For the first time in days, I smiled genuinely. The war had begun, but now I had the right weapons. That night, from the comfort of my hotel suite, I turned on my phone to check my messages. I had 37 missed calls from Michael, 15 from Vanessa, and 8 from Sarah. The text messages were increasingly desperate. "Mom, please answer. We're very worried." "Martha, if you don't respond, we're going to call the police." "Grandma, where are you? Dad says you're going to get in trouble." I decided to reply only to Michael. "I'm fine. Don't worry. I'll be back when I'm ready." The response came immediately. "Mom, this isn't normal. You need to come home now. Vanessa made your favorite dinner." Her favorite dinner. As if after 45 years I didn't know that Vanessa had never cooked anything special for me. It was another lie, another manipulation. The next day, Mr. Grant Meyer called me early. "Mrs. Martha, I have interesting news. My private investigator has already started working on your case and discovered something important. Your daughter-in-law, Vanessa, has been using your personal information to apply for credit cards in your name for the last 6 months. What? I exclaimed, feeling indignation rise in my chest. She has 5 credit cards that you never authorized with an accumulated debt of $43,000. Purchases in luxury stores, expensive restaurants, even a trip to Cancun last month, the lawyer explained. But I never went to Cancun, I said, confused. No, ma'am, they did. Your family took a week-long vacation using your money while they told you they were going to visit Vanessa's sick mother. The memory hit me like a slap. I remembered that week perfectly. Vanessa had cried, saying her mother was very ill and they needed to go take care of her urgently. I had given them money for the trip, in addition to what they had already stolen with the fake cards. Mr. Meyer, what else did your investigator find? I asked, dreading the answer. Your son Michael lost his job 8 months ago, but he never told you. He has been living off your savings and pension. We also discovered that he has already contacted 3 different doctors, trying to find one willing to certify that you suffer from senile dementia. Each revelation was a deeper stab. They hadn't just planned to rob me. They had already been robbing me for months. They didn't just want to declare me crazy. They had already started the process. And my granddaughter, Sarah, I asked with a broken voice. She has her secrets too, Mrs. Martha. She's 3 months pregnant, but she's lying to her parents about who the father is. Apparently the real father is a 50-year-old married man who promised to leave his wife but now wants nothing to do with the baby. Oh my God, I whispered. My granddaughter, the girl I had helped raise, was caught in a scandal that could destroy her future. There's more, Mr. Meyer continued. Vanessa has been having an affair with the neighbor David for the last 2 years. My investigator has photographs and videos that prove it. David Linda's husband, I asked, remembering the sweet woman who lived next door to my house. The very same. Apparently, Vanessa and David meet at a motel on Tuesday and Thursday afternoons while Michael thinks she's at her yoga class. The irony was brutal. While they were planning to destroy my life by accusing me of being crazy, each of them was living lies that made them far worse than I could have ever imagined. Mr. Meyer, I want you to document all of this, I said with renewed determination. Every lie, every theft, every betrayal. I want that when the time comes to confront them, you have evidence of everything. Of course, Mrs. Martha, but I have a suggestion. Instead of confronting them immediately, what if we let them dig their own grave a little deeper? That afternoon, I decided to do something I hadn't done in years: buy new clothes. I went to the most elegant stores in the city and bought 3 beautiful dresses. 1 elegant black one, vibrant red, and 1 emerald green that made me feel powerful. I also bought new shoes, a genuine leather handbag, and even got my hair done at the most exclusive salon in the city. The stylist, a young woman named Sophia, worked on my hair for 3 hours. "Ma'am, you have beautiful hair," she said as she worked. "Why have you neglected it so?" "Because for a long time, I thought it wasn't worth taking care of myself anymore," I answered honestly. I thought my only function was to be the invisible grandmother who takes care of everyone else. "Well, those days are over," Sophia declared firmly. "When I'm done with you, you're going to look like the queen you've always been." And she was right. When I looked in the mirror, I didn't recognize the woman looking back at me. My hair had a modern, elegant cut with highlights that lit up my face. I looked powerful. That night, dining at the hotel restaurant, I decided to call Michael. "Mom, finally, where the hell have you been?" His voice was furious, not worried. "Taking care of myself, son," I replied calmly. "You know it's been years since I've dedicated time to myself. It's been very revealing." "Mom, this has to stop. You can't just disappear like this. We're your family. We have a right to know where you are." "A right," I repeated, letting the word hang in the air. "Since when does my family have a right over me?" "Since you started behaving erratically," he replied. And there it was again, trying to plant the seed that I was mentally unstable. Erratic. Does it seem erratic to you that a 70-year-old woman decides to take a few days for herself? Yes, when that woman has never done something like that before. "Mom, I think you need to talk to a specialist. You're acting very strangely." "A specialist?" I asked, feigning confusion. What kind of specialist, Michael? A psychologist. Mom, someone who can help you with these behavioral changes. Perfect. He himself was admitting his intentions on a call I was recording. You know what, son? You're right. I do need specialized help, I told him, and I could hear his sigh of relief on the other end of the line. I'm glad you understand, Mom. Yes, I understand perfectly. I need a specialist in family fraud, a specialist in elder abuse, and a specialist in psychological manipulation, because that's exactly what you've been doing to me. The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. Mom, what are you talking about? I'm talking about the fact that I know everything, Michael. I know about the fake credit cards Vanessa took out in my name. I know about your plan to declare me incompetent. I know about the doctors you've contacted. I know everything. Mom, that's ridiculous. I don't know what you're talking about. I think you really need medical help. You know what else I know, Michael? I know you lost your job 8 months ago and have been living off my money while lying to my face. I know about the trip to Cancun you paid for with my stolen money, and I know many other things that are going to surprise you a lot when you see them in court. You're delusional, he said, but his voice no longer sounded confident. Delusional. Last night I heard you planning how to drive me crazy for real by changing my medications. Is that a delusion too? This time the silence was even longer. Mom, come home. We can talk about this as a family. No, Michael, we are no longer a family. A family doesn't betray each other the way you betrayed me. A family doesn't plan the mental destruction of one of its members to steal their money. Mom, please. What I am going to do is give you a chance. One single chance to confess everything, apologize genuinely, and return every penny you have stolen from me. If you do that, maybe, just maybe, I can find a way to forgive you. We have nothing to confess, he replied, but his voice trembled. Then I'll see you in court. Son, have a good night. I hung up the phone, and for the first time in days, I felt completely at peace. The war had been officially declared, and I had all the weapons. The following days were an emotional roller coaster. My phone wouldn't stop ringing with desperate calls from my family. First, they tried the love tactic tearful messages from Sarah, saying how much she missed me. Broken voices from Vanessa asking for forgiveness for any misunderstanding and pleas from Michael begging me to come home to clear things up. When that strategy didn't work, they switched to fear and intimidation. Michael left me a voicemail saying, Mom, if you don't come back immediately, we're going to have to take legal action to protect you from yourself. Your erratic behavior is forcing us to consider legal guardianship. But Mr. Grant Meyer had prepared me for this. Mrs. Martha, let them file the guardianship petition, he advised me during one of our meetings. It will be the best evidence we could have of their true intentions. Besides, we already have 3 independent psychiatrists who have certified that you are in perfect mental condition. Meanwhile, my private investigator had been very busy. Every day I received new reports that left me more surprised than I thought possible. Mrs. Martha, he told me during our Friday meeting, your family has accelerated their plans dramatically since you disappeared. Yesterday, Michael went to your bank trying to access your accounts, saying you had suffered a psychotic episode and that he needed to manage your finances temporarily. And what did the bank tell him? I asked. Fortunately, the bank manager is very professional. He told Michael he would need official legal documentation to make any changes to your accounts, but Michael insisted so much they had to ask him to leave. Is there more? Yes, Vanessa has been selling your belongings. Yesterday I saw that she posted several of your antique furniture pieces on an online sales site. She also tried to sell your jewelry collection to a pawn shop, but the appraiser refused because the pieces obviously belonged to an elderly person, and Vanessa couldn't prove she had authorization to sell them. My heart raced. That jewelry was a gift from my late husband, unique pieces he had collected for decades. And my granddaughter Sarah. She has been the most active of all. She's been telling her friends that you're suffering from advanced Alzheimer's and that the family is considering putting you in a home. She's also been using this story to borrow money from several acquaintances, saying she needs funds to pay for her grandmother's medical care. Each revelation was more painful than the last. They weren't just stealing from me. They were destroying my reputation and using my supposed illness to manipulate other people. But here comes the most interesting part, the investigator continued. Last night, the three of them had a meeting at your house with a man our sources identified as Paul Stevens, a document forger known in the city's criminal underworld. A forger? I asked, feeling my blood run cold. Apparently they're planning to create fake medical documents certifying your mental incompetence. Paul Stevens specializes in creating fictitious medical histories and forging doctors' signatures. This was much worse than I had imagined. They didn't just want to rob me, they were willing to commit multiple serious crimes to do it. Mr. Meyer, I said on the phone that same afternoon, I think it's time to speed up our plans. If we wait any longer, they'll have fake documents that could complicate things. I agree, Mrs. Martha. Are you ready for Phase 2 of our plan? Phase 2 would be brilliant in its simplicity. Instead of confronting them directly, we were going to let them incriminate themselves publicly. On Monday morning, I dressed in my new elegant black dress, put on my best jewelry, and headed to the most prestigious real estate office in the city. I had arranged an appointment to see luxury properties, specifically houses over $1 million. Mrs. Martha, the real estate agent, an elegant man named Richard, greeted me. It's a pleasure to meet you. I understand you're interested in acquiring a high-value property. That's right, I replied confidently. I'm looking for a house that reflects my new stage of life, something elegant, modern, with good security. Perfect. I have 3 properties that might interest you. What Richard didn't know was that my private investigator had coordinated everything perfectly. At 11 in the morning, exactly when we would be viewing the second property, Michael, Vanessa, and Sarah would casually show up at the same real estate office. We were in the middle of visiting a spectacular mansion when I heard familiar voices at the main entrance. "Excuse me," I said to Richard, "I think some acquaintances have just arrived." When we went down to the main lobby there, they were the 3 of them dressed in their best clothes, talking to another real estate agent. "We're interested in selling a property," I heard Michael say. "It's my mother's house, but she's ill and we have power of attorney to handle her affairs." "Power of attorney?" the agent asked. "Could you show me the documentation?" "Well, we're still processing the official papers," Vanessa replied nervously, "but it's just a matter of days. We want to get a head start on the appraisal process." "Hello, family," I said loudly from the stairs. The 3 of them turned around at the same time, and their horrified faces were worthy of a movie. Michael turned pale. Vanessa's mouth fell open without a sound, and Sarah literally took a step back. "Mom," Michael stammered, What are you doing here?" "The same as you, apparently," I replied calmly as I walked down the stairs, "although I'm buying, not selling." Richard, my real estate agent, approached with a professional smile. "Do you know these people, Mrs. Martha?" "Unfortunately, yes," I replied. "They're my family, or at least I thought so until recently." "Mom, we need to talk," Michael said, trying to sound authoritative but failing miserably. "About what, Michael?" "About how you plan to sell my house without my authorization, about the forged documents you're processing, or about the power of attorney you just mentioned that doesn't exist." The other real estate agent looked confused and clearly uncomfortable. "Excuse me?" he interrupted. "But if there's a legal dispute over the property, we can't proceed with any appraisal until it's resolved." "There's no conflict," Vanessa said desperately. "It's just that she's not well in the head lately." "Not well in the head," I repeated loudly, making sure everyone in the office could hear. "That's why I'm here buying $1.5 million house with my own money." Richard's jaw dropped. $1.5 million, Sarah whispered. "Oh yes, my dear granddaughter," I said with a sweet smile. "It turns out your senile grandmother has quite a bit more money than you thought." I took out my phone and dialed Mr. Meyer's number. "Mr. Meyer, I'm at Richards & Associates Realty. My family is here trying to sell my property without authorization and claiming they have power of attorney over my affairs. Could you send someone from your office to document this situation?" "Of course, Mrs. Martha. Someone will be there in 15 minutes. I hung up and looked at my family with a calm that surprised me. "Now we're going to wait for my lawyers to arrive," I announced. and you're going to explain to everyone here exactly what legal documents you have, how you obtained them, and why you believe you have the right to sell my property." Michael tried to approach me. "Mom, this is a misunderstanding. We can sort this out at home." "No," I said firmly, taking a step back. "There's nothing left to sort out at home. I don't have a home anymore. At least not with you in it." Vanessa started to cry, but they were tears of panic, not sadness. "Martha, please, we're family. Everything we've done has been for your own good." "For my own good?" I asked, raising my voice. "Was stealing my money with fake credit cards for my own good? Was planning to forge medical documents for my own good? Was hiring a criminal to forge my medical history for my own good?" Each accusation fell like a bomb in the real estate lobby. The other clients and employees had stopped to listen, and I could see the expressions of horror and disgust on their faces. "We don't know what you're talking about," Sarah lied desperately. "You don't know." I took out my phone and played one of the recordings I had made. Michael's voice filled the space. "We'll drive her crazy for real. We'll switch her medications, hide her things, tell her she did things she didn't do. In a month, any doctor will certify that she's insane." The silence in the real estate office was deafening. I could see the faces of the employees and clients fill with indignation and disgust. "That recording is illegal!" Vanessa shouted hysterically. "Not in this state," I replied calmly, "and definitely not when it's recorded to prevent a crime that's being planned." At that moment, 2 lawyers from Mr. Meyer's firm arrived along with a notary public. "Mrs. Martha, we are from Meyer and Associates. We understand there are some people here claiming to have legal authority over your affairs." "That's right," I replied. "I would like you to officially document that these 3 people have no legal power over me, my properties, or my finances, and that any attempt to exercise such authority constitutes fraud." One of the lawyers addressed Michael. "Sir, could you show me the documentation that supports your authority to sell Mrs. Martha's property?" Michael opened and closed his mouth like a fish out of water. We're in the process of... they don't have any documentation," I declared, "because they don't have any authority. What they do have is a criminal plan to steal everything I own." The public humiliation at the real estate office was just the beginning. As we left the building, my family followed me to the street, alternately shouting and begging. "Mom, wait," Michael yelled. "We can fix this. It's all been a terrible misunderstanding." "Grandma, please," Sarah cried. "I love you. You can't do this to us." Vanessa, for her part, had completely changed her strategy. She no longer feigned love or concern. "You're a bitter old woman," she screamed as I got into my taxi. "You've used us all these years. Michael gave you the best years of his life, and this is how you repay him." "The best years of his life." I turned to her from the taxi window. "You mean the years I worked 18 hours a day to support him, the years I gave up my career, my friends, my social life to raise him, those years?" "You chose to adopt him," Vanessa retorted with venom in her voice. "Nobody forced you, and now you expect us to be eternally grateful." "I don't expect you to be grateful," I replied with deadly calm. "I just expect you not to rob me, not to betray me, and not to plan to drive me crazy to get my money." Apparently that was too much to ask. I told the taxi driver to go, leaving my family screaming on the sidewalk. That afternoon, Mr. Meyer summoned me to his office for an urgent meeting. "Mrs. Martha, I have extraordinary news," he said with a smile I hadn't seen before. "Your family made a critical mistake after the incident at the real estate office." "What kind of mistake?" In their desperation, Michael went directly to the document forger Paul Stevens and paid him $50,000 up front to expedite the creation of his fake medical documents. $50,000? Where did they get that much money? From the credit cards they took out in your name, and apparently Vanessa sold her car. But here's the best part. Paul Stevens is an FBI informant. He's been cooperating with the authorities for the past 6 months to dismantle a document fraud ring. I was speechless for a moment. "You mean that your family is not only being investigated for family fraud, but they are now under federal investigation for conspiracy to commit medical document fraud. The FBI has audio and video recordings of the entire transaction." That night from my hotel suite, I decided to do something I had been putting off: confront each member of my family individually, but not face to face. I had something much more powerful in mind. I opened my laptop and created an account on the country's most popular live streaming platform. My title was simple but effective. A grandmother tells the truth about her family. At 8 o'clock at night, I started my first live stream. At first, there were only 3 viewers, but to my surprise, the number started to grow rapidly. "Good evening," I began, looking directly at the camera. "My name is Martha. I'm 70 years old, and tonight I'm going to tell you a story that will change the way you see perfect families." In 20 minutes, I had over 500 viewers. By the end of the hour, there were over 3,000. I told them everything, from Michael's adoption to Dr. Evan's secret note, from the fraudulent credit cards to the plans to drive me crazy. I played the recording, showed the documents I had collected, and explained each betrayal in precise detail. The live comments were overwhelmingly supportive. "What a horrible family. Mrs. Martha, you are a warrior. Sue them, make them pay for everything. My grandmother went through something similar. Thank you for being brave." But what really changed everything was when halfway through my broadcast, I received a live call. It was Sarah. "Grandma, please turn off that stream," she pleaded. "You're ruining our lives." "I'm ruining your lives," I repeated so all the viewers could hear. "Don't you think you ruined mine first? Grandma, everyone is watching us. My friends, my teachers, the whole school. I can't even leave the house. And how do you think I would feel when you had me committed to a nursing home against my will, declared mentally incompetent, and all my money stolen? That was never going to happen. We were exploring options." "Exploring options," I shouted, losing for the first time the composure I had maintained for days. "Sarah, I raised you since you were a baby. I changed your diapers, I took you to school, I took care of you when you were sick, and you stood there smiling while your parents planned to destroy me." The silence on the other end of the line was deafening, but the live comments exploded. "Make her tell the truth. This girl is shameless. Mrs. Martha, don't let her manipulate you." "Grandma," Sarah finally said with a broken voice, I need money for college and for other things." "You thought what, Sarah? You thought I was your personal bank. You thought you could collaborate on a plan to drive me crazy and then use my money to pay for your studies. It's not like that." "Then how is it? Explain it to the 4,000 people watching us right now. Explain to them why you told your friends you needed to borrow money to pay for my medical care while I was perfectly fine." Another silence, then barely audible. "How do you know that?" "Because I'm not the senile old woman you think I am. I know everything, Sarah. Everything. Including things about you that your parents don't know." "What? What things?" "Things that could ruin your future much more than this broadcast ever could." She hung up immediately, but the damage was already done. The viewers had heard my granddaughter implicitly admit that she knew about the plans against me. 5 minutes later, my phone rang again. This time it was Michael, and he sounded absolutely furious. "Mom, turn off that damn broadcast right now," he roared. "Hello, Michael," I said sweetly. "Do you want to talk to the 5,000 people who are watching us? This is defamation. I'm going to sue you for slander." "Slander? Is it slander to play audio recordings where you plan to drive me crazy? Is it slander to show the account statements that prove you've been stealing from me for months? Those recordings are illegal. Not in this state, son. And definitely not when they're made to prevent a crime. But tell me, do you want to explain to all these viewers why you paid a document forger $50,000 yesterday afternoon?" The silence was so long, I thought he had hung up. How do you know that?" "Because Paul Stevens is an FBI informant." "Michael, congratulations, now you're not only being investigated for family fraud but for federal conspiracy. You're lying. Want to bet, check the news tomorrow morning, or better yet, wait for the federal agents to knock on your door." The live comments went crazy. "FBI, FBI, FBI. This family is going to jail. Mrs. Martha is a detective. Justice for Grandma. Mom. Michael said, with a broken voice completely different from his earlier fury. "Please stop this. We can still fix it. We're family." "No, Michael," I replied, with genuine sadness. "A family doesn't betray. A family doesn't steal. A family doesn't plan the mental destruction of one of its members. What you are is not a family, it's a criminal organization that shares a last name. We gave you 45 years of our lives. You gave me, I gave you 45 years of mine. I gave up everything for you. And you were just waiting for me to die to inherit what you thought I had. We need that money. Mom, we have debts problems. And that's why you decided to drive me crazy. That's why you decided to rob me. That's why you decided to destroy the last years of my life." It wasn't personal. Those 3 words hung in the air like a death sentence. It wasn't personal. 45 years of love, sacrifice, and dedication, and for him it wasn't personal. "You're right, Michael," I finally said. "It wasn't personal for you, and from now on it won't be personal for me either. See you in court." I hung up and looked at the camera. "And that, dear viewers, was my family," I said with a sad smile. "I'll continue this story tomorrow. Good night." I ended the broadcast with over 7,000 viewers and hundreds of messages of support. For the first time in weeks, I went to sleep feeling that I was not alone in this battle. The next morning, I woke up to my phone exploding with notifications. My live stream had gone viral. I had thousands of messages of support, hundreds of interview requests from media outlets, and surprisingly dozens of messages from elderly people who had gone through similar situations. Mrs. Martha. One of the messages said, "My son did the exact same thing. Thank you for being brave and telling your story. You've inspired me to take action." Another said, "I'm a lawyer specializing in elder abuse. Your case is textbook. If you need additional help, I'm at your disposal free of charge." But the message that impacted me the most was from a woman named Elena. "Mrs. Martha, I'm a social worker. Just yesterday I prevented a family from committing their 75-year-old father after watching your broadcast. Your bravery is saving other grandparents." Mr. Meyer called me at 9 in the morning. "Mrs. Martha, your broadcast last night has completely changed the landscape of this case," he said excitedly. "I have 3 important pieces of news." "Tell me," I replied, pouring my morning coffee into the hotel's elegant china. "First, the district attorney contacted me this morning. They want to press criminal charges against your family based on the evidence we've gathered and the partial confessions they made during your live stream." Partial confessions. When Sarah admitted she needed money and when Michael didn't deny the charges about the forger, they were technically making admissions of guilt live before thousands of witnesses. "What's the second piece of news?" "Your family hired Diego Morales, one of the most expensive lawyers in the city. Apparently they spent another $30,000 they don't have to pay him." $30,000 more? Where are they getting so much money? Here comes the third piece of news, and it's the most shocking. Vanessa secretly mortgaged the house where you live. Using forged documents that showed her as a co-owner, she obtained a $200,000 mortgage 3 weeks ago. I gasped. "She mortgaged my house." "Your house, Mrs. Martha. And the worst part is, the money is already spent. $50,000 to the forger, $30,000 to the lawyer, and the rest they apparently used to pay off the fraudulent credit card debts and other expenses." "Does that mean—" "That technically the bank now has a claim on your property based on forged documents. We're going to have to fight this too, but I'm confident we'll win." After hanging up with Mr. Meyer, I decided to do something I had been putting off. Visit my house. Not to reconcile with my family, but to retrieve my most valuable belongings before they mysteriously disappeared. I arrived at 11 in the morning, accompanied by 2 lawyers from the firm and a court officer who had authorized my entry to collect my personal belongings. The house looked neglected. The garden that I kept perfectly was full of weeds, and there was trash piled up at the entrance. Michael opened the door with a look of total shock. "Mom, what are you doing here?" "I've come to collect my things," I replied coldly. These people are my legal representatives, and this officer is here to ensure I can take my belongings without interference. Vanessa appeared behind Michael, disheveled and in her pajamas in the middle of the morning. "You can't come in here," she shouted hysterically. "This is our house now." "Your house?" one of my lawyers asked. "Do you have documents to prove that claim?" We live here," Vanessa stammered. "Living on a property doesn't make you the owners," the lawyer explained patiently, "and it certainly doesn't give you the right to fraudulently mortgage it." I entered my own home for the first time in over a week, and the state I found it in horrified me. The living room was full of takeout boxes, empty alcohol bottles, and clothes thrown everywhere. My beautiful home had turned into a pigsty in just a few days. "What have you done to my house?" I asked, feeling rage build in my chest. "We're stressed," Sarah muttered from the stairs. "We haven't been able to clean." "Stressed from planning how to rob me," I retorted. "Stressed from trying to drive me crazy. Stressed from fraudulently mortgaging my property." I went up to my room and found something that left me speechless. They had completely rummaged through my drawers, my closets, my most intimate belongings. It was clear they had been looking for something. "What were you looking for?" I asked Michael, who had followed me. "Nothing, Mom. We were just worried about you." "Worried? That's why you trashed my room." I opened my jewelry box and confirmed my suspicions. Several pieces were missing, including the diamond earrings my husband had given me on our 20th anniversary. "Where is my jewelry?" I asked directly. "What jewelry?" Vanessa lied. I took out my phone and dialed the private investigator's number. "Could you tell me exactly which pieces of jewelry you found that Vanessa tried to sell at the pawn shop?" I asked on speakerphone so everyone could hear. "The diamond earrings, the pearl necklace, the white gold bracelet with emeralds, and the backup engagement ring," the voice recited from the phone. Vanessa turned as white as a sheet. "That jewelry is in the safe deposit box," she lied desperately. "What safe deposit box?" my lawyer asked. "Do you have legal access to a safe deposit box in Mrs. Martha's name?" Total silence. "Vanessa," I said in a dangerously low voice, "you have exactly 24 hours to return every single piece of my jewelry. If they don't appear, I will press additional charges for grand theft." While I packed my most important belongings, I could hear my family whispering desperately in the kitchen. I decided to get closer to listen. "We have to get the jewelry back," Michael was saying. "I can't," Vanessa replied. "I already sold them. We needed the money for the lawyer." "You sold all of it?" Sarah asked, horrified. "What did you want me to do? We needed another $50,000 for Paul to make the documents faster." "But that jewelry was worth over $100,000, Michael shouted. $100,000? I asked from the kitchen entrance. The three of them turned as if they'd seen a ghost. "Mom, we can explain," Michael began. "Explain how—" "Explain that you knew exactly how much my jewelry was worth when you stole it. Explain that you sold it for a fraction of its value to pay a criminal. Explain that you not only stole items of incalculable sentimental value, but you also sold them for pennies on the dollar." "We needed the money urgently," Vanessa sobbed. "For what? To pay the forger who was going to help you steal all my money, to pay the lawyer who was going to help you declare me crazy." Sarah began to cry. "Grandma, I'm so sorry. I didn't know the jewelry was so important to you." "You didn't know." I looked at her in disbelief. "You didn't know your grandfather gave me the diamond earrings the day I met you for the first time. You didn't know the pearl necklace belonged to my mother. You didn't know that each of those pieces had a story, a memory, a part of my life." I thought they were just old things," she muttered. "Old things. Like me, right?" The court officer approached. "Mrs. Martha, if you've finished collecting your belongings, we should go." "Yes," I replied, taking the last box. "I'm done here. Forever." As I was leaving the house, Michael yelled at me from the door. "Mom, we can still fix this. We're family." I turned one last time. "No, Michael. Family is built on love, respect, and trust. You destroyed all three. We're not family anymore. Now we're just adversaries in a court of law." I got in the car and drove away from the house where I had lived for 45 years, knowing I would never return as the woman I had been. I was returning as the woman I had become, a warrior who would not let herself be destroyed without a fight. The following days were a whirlwind of legal and media activity. My second live stream, where I showed the state of my ransacked house and narrated the theft of my jewelry, was watched by over 15,000 people in real time. The comments were overwhelmingly supportive, but some broke my heart. "My family did the same thing to me last year," a woman wrote. "Thank you for giving me the courage to report them." "Mrs. Martha, you inspired me to check my father's finances. I discovered my brother had been stealing from him for years," another person commented. "But it was a private message that really hit me. I'm your neighbor, Linda. Vanessa told me that David and she were seeing each other in secret. I thought you should know. I have pictures if you need them for the trial." Linda: "The sweet neighbor whose husband David had been having an affair with my daughter-in-law for 2 years. Even in my pain, I felt compassion for her." On Friday morning, Mr. Meyer summoned me for an urgent meeting. "Mrs. Martha, I have news that will change everything," he said with a smile I hadn't seen before. "The FBI arrested Paul Stevens last night, and in his interrogation, he confessed everything about the transaction with your family. Everything. Not only did he admit that Michael paid him to forge medical documents, but he also revealed that your family asked him to create a fake will in your name, leaving everything to them and declaring that you were mentally incompetent when you signed it." I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. A fake will. Apparently the plan was much more elaborate than we thought. They were going to use the fake medical documents to have you committed, then present the forged will, and finally wait for you to die in the nursing home to inherit everything legally. "My God," I whispered. "How long had they been planning this?" According to Paul Stevens, Vanessa first contacted him 4 months ago. This wasn't a desperate last-minute decision. It was a calculated and premeditated conspiracy. That afternoon, as I processed this new information in my hotel suite, I received an unexpected call. It was Sarah, and for the first time in weeks, her voice sounded genuinely broken. "Grandma, can we talk, please? Just you and me." "What for, Sarah? So you can lie to me more? So you can try to manipulate me emotionally?" "No, Grandma. To tell you the truth, the whole truth, I can't take this anymore." Something in her voice made me hesitate. I decided to take a chance. "All right. But it will be in a public place with witnesses, and I'm going to record the entire conversation. Whatever you want. Just please." We met at the coffee shop in the hotel lobby. Sarah arrived with her eyes swollen from crying, dressed sloppily, very different from the vain girl I knew. "Grandma," she began before I could say anything, "you have to know that I never wanted things to go this far." "How far, Sarah? How far did you think was acceptable?" "At first, Mom and Dad just talked about convincing you to move into a luxury nursing home. They said it would be better for you, that you'd have company of people your own age." "And what did you think?" I thought maybe they were right. The house is too big for you alone, and sometimes you seemed lonely." She stopped and looked me in the eyes. "But that was before I knew about the money." "What money?" "They didn't know about my secret accounts." "No, but they knew about your pension, about the savings you had in the local bank, about the value of the house. Mom had been investigating for months." "Investigating how?" "She went through your papers when you weren't around. She called your bank pretending to be you. She even went to see your old boss to ask about your retirement pension." Each revelation was a deeper stab. "And when did they decide it wasn't enough just to convince me?" Sarah started to cry. "When Mom found out you could live another 20 years. She said she couldn't wait that long, that she needed the money now." "What did she need the money for so urgently?" "To pay Dad's debts. He lost a lot of money on sports betting over the last 2 years. He owes over $100,000 to some very dangerous people." Another shocking revelation. Michael hadn't just lost his job. He was a compulsive gambler with dangerous debts. "And what role did you play in all this?" I needed money for college. "And for other things." She touched her belly unconsciously. "Other things like what, Sarah?" "I'm pregnant, Grandma," she finally confessed. "The father is a married man who wants nothing to do with the baby. I need money to decide what to do." My heart broke for my granddaughter, but I also felt a deep rage. "And that's why you decided to participate in a plan to drive me crazy." "I didn't know they wanted to drive you crazy," she cried out, drawing glances from other customers in the cafe. "I thought they just wanted a doctor to say you needed special care." "What's the difference, Sarah?" I don't know. I guess there is no difference." She cried silently for a few minutes. "Grandma, when you left home, everything fell apart. Dad and Mom do nothing but fight. Mom says it's all Dad's fault for gambling. Dad says it's all Mom's fault for being too ambitious, and I'm in the middle pregnant and terrified. And what do you want from me now?" I want you to forgive me, and I want you to know that if you testify against Dad and Mom, I'm going to tell the truth. Everything I know, everything I saw, everything I heard." I remained silent, processing this unexpected offer. "Why would you switch sides now, Sarah?" "Because last night Dad told me that if everything goes wrong, they're going to say it was my idea to steal your jewelry. They're going to say I manipulated them into doing it because I needed money for drugs." "Drugs? I don't use drugs, Grandma. But Dad says it's more believable to blame the rebellious teenager than to admit they planned everything." The final betrayal. They hadn't just betrayed me, now they were willing to betray their own daughter to save themselves. "Do you have proof of what you're telling me?" Sarah took out her phone. "I have recordings of all their fights since you left. I have text messages where they plan to blame me. I have videos of Mom counting the money she got from selling your jewelry. Why did you record all that?" "Because a week ago, I realized that when all this is over, they're going to abandon me too. I'm a minor. I'm pregnant and I have no money. They're going to need a scapegoat, and that scapegoat is going to be me." I looked at her intently, trying to determine if this was another manipulation or if I was finally hearing the truth. "Sarah, if you decide to testify against your parents, your life will change forever. Your relationship with them will be completely over." "My relationship with them is already over, Grandma, from the moment they decided to use me as part of their plan against you and then decided to sacrifice me to save themselves." "And what do you want in return for your testimony?" "I want you to help me finish high school. I want you to help me make the right decision about my pregnancy. And I want you to teach me how to be a strong woman like you." For the first time in weeks, I felt a spark of the old connection I had with my granddaughter. "Sarah, if you do this, if you help me get justice, I won't just help you with high school and your situation. I'll teach you something much more valuable." "What?" "I'll teach you that real family isn't defined by blood, but by loyalty, respect, and genuine love. And that sometimes protecting yourself means walking away from toxic people even if you share their last name." Sarah extended her hand across the table. "Deal, Grandma." I shook her hand, knowing that this moment would mark the beginning of the end for Michael and Vanessa. "Deal, my child. But now you're my ally, and allies protect each other. Are you ready for that responsibility?" "More ready than I've ever been for anything in my life." The following days were a whirlwind of legal and media activity. My second live stream, where I showed the state of my ransacked house and narrated the theft of my jewelry, was watched by over 15,000 people in real time. The comments were overwhelmingly supportive, but some broke my heart. "My family did the same thing to me last year," a woman wrote. "Thank you for giving me the courage to report them." "Mrs. Martha, you inspired me to check my father's finances. I discovered my brother had been stealing from him for years," commented another person, "but it was a private message that really hit me. I'm your neighbor, Linda. Vanessa told me that David and she were seeing each other in secret. I thought you should know. I have pictures if you need them for the trial." Linda, the sweet neighbor, whose husband David had been having an affair with my daughter-in-law for 2 years. Even in my pain, I felt compassion for her. On Friday morning, Dr. Meyer summoned me for an urgent meeting. "Mrs. Martha, I have news that will change everything," he said with a smile I hadn't seen before. "The FBI arrested Paul Stevens last night, and in his interrogation, he confessed everything about the transaction with your family. Everything. Not only did he admit that Michael paid him to forge medical documents, but he also revealed that your family asked him to create a fake will in your name, leaving everything to them, and declaring that you were mentally incompetent when you signed it. I felt as if I had been punched in the stomach. A fake will. Apparently, the plan was much more elaborate than we thought. They were going to use the fake medical documents to have you committed, then present the forged will, and finally wait for you to die in the nursing home to inherit everything legally. My God, I whispered. How long had they been planning this? According to Paul Stevens, Vanessa contacted him for the first time 4 months ago. This wasn't a desperate last-minute decision. It was a calculated and premeditated conspiracy. That afternoon, as I processed this new information in my hotel suite, I received an unexpected call. It was Sarah, and for the first time in weeks, her voice sounded genuinely broken. "Grandma, can we talk? Please, just you and me." "What for, Sarah?" "So you can lie to me more, so you can try to manipulate me emotionally." "No. Grandma, to tell you the truth, the whole truth. I can't take this anymore." Something in her voice made me hesitate. I decided to take a chance. "All right, but it will be in a public place with witnesses, and I'm going to record the entire conversation." "Whatever you want. Just please." We met at the coffee shop in the hotel lobby. Sarah arrived with her eyes swollen from crying, dressed sloppily, very different from the vain girl I knew. "Grandma," she began before I could say anything, "you have to know that I never wanted things to go this far." "How far, Sarah? How far did you think was acceptable?" "At first, Mom and Dad just talked about convincing you to move into a luxury nursing home. They said it would be better for you, that you'd have company from people your own age." "And what did you think?" I thought that maybe they were right. The house is very big for you alone, and sometimes you seemed lonely." She stopped and looked me in the eyes. But that was before I knew about the money. What money they didn't know about my secret accounts? No, but they knew about your pension, about the savings you had in the local bank, about the value of the house. Mom had been investigating for months. Investigating how she went through your papers when you weren't there. She called your bank pretending to be you. She even went to see your old boss to ask about your retirement pension. Each revelation was a deeper stab. "And when did they decide it wasn't enough just to convince me?" Sarah began to cry. "When Mom found out you could live another 20 years, she said she couldn't wait that long, that she needed the money now." "What did she need the money for so urgently?" "To pay Dad's debts. He lost a lot of money on sports betting over the last 2 years. He owes more than $100,000 to very dangerous people." Another shocking revelation. Michael hadn't just lost his job. He was a compulsive gambler with dangerous debts. "And what role did you play in all of this?" I needed money for college, and for other things." She touched her belly unconsciously. "Other things like what, Sarah?" "I'm pregnant, Grandma," she finally confessed. "The father is a married man who wants nothing to do with the baby. I need money to decide what to do." My heart broke for my granddaughter, but I also felt a deep rage. "And that's why you decided to participate in a plan to drive me crazy." "I didn't know they wanted to drive you crazy," she shouted, attracting glances from other customers in the cafe. "I thought they just wanted a doctor to say you needed special care." "What's the difference, Paula?" I don't know. I guess there is no difference." She cried in silence for a few minutes. "Grandma, when you left home, everything fell apart. Dad and Mom do nothing but fight. Mom says it's all Dad's fault for gambling. Dad says it's all Mom's fault for being too ambitious. And I'm in the middle, pregnant and terrified. And now what do you want from me?" I want you to forgive me. And I want you to know that if you testify against Dad and Mom, I'm going to tell the truth. Everything I know, everything I saw, everything I heard." I remained silent, processing this unexpected offer. "Why would you switch sides now, Sarah?" "Because last night Dad told me that if everything goes wrong, they're going to say it was my idea to steal your jewelry. They're going to say I manipulated them into doing it because I needed money for drugs. Drugs? I don't use drugs, Grandma, but Dad says it's more believable to blame the rebellious teenager than to admit they planned everything. The final betrayal. They hadn't just betrayed me now, they were willing to betray their own daughter to save themselves. You have proof of what you're telling me. Sarah took out her phone. I have recordings of all their fights since you left. I have text messages where they plan to blame me. I have videos of Mom counting the money she got from selling your jewelry. Why did you record all that? Because a week ago, I realized that when all this is over, they're going to abandon me too. I'm a minor. I'm pregnant and I have no money. They're going to need a scapegoat, and that scapegoat is going to be me. I looked at her intently, trying to determine if this was another manipulation or if I was finally hearing the truth. Sarah, if you decide to testify against your parents, your life will change forever. Your relationship with them will be completely over. My relationship with them is already over, Grandma, from the moment they decided to use me as part of their plan against you and then decided to sacrifice me to save themselves. And what do you want in return for your testimony? I want you to help me finish high school. I want you to help me make the right decision about my pregnancy. And I want you to teach me how to be a strong woman like you. For the first time in weeks, I felt a spark of the old connection I had with my granddaughter. Sarah, if you do this, if you help me get justice, I won't just help you with high school and your situation, I'll teach you something much more valuable. What? I'll teach you that real family isn't defined by blood, but by loyalty, respect, and genuine love. And that sometimes protecting yourself means walking away from toxic people, even if you share their last name. Sarah extended her hand across the table. Deal, Grandma. I shook her hand, knowing that this moment would mark the beginning of the end for Michael and Vanessa. Deal, my child. But now you're my ally, and allies protect each other. Are you ready for that responsibility? More ready than I've ever been for anything in my life. The day of the trial came sooner than I expected. In 3 weeks, Mr. Meyer had built such a solid case that even my family's expensive lawyer recommended they plead guilty to negotiate a lesser sentence. But Michael and Vanessa refused. They wanted to take the case to trial, convinced they could manipulate the jury with the image of a loving family caring for a confused grandmother. The day the trial began, I arrived at the courthouse dressed in my most elegant black suit, accompanied by Sarah, who had decided to move in with me at the hotel for the duration of the legal process. "Are you nervous, Grandma?" she asked as we climbed the courthouse steps. "No, my child," I replied calmly. "I am at peace. The truth always finds its way." The courtroom was packed. My story had gone national after several media outlets covered my live streams. There were journalists, cameras, and dozens of elderly people who had come to show their support. When I saw Michael and Vanessa at the defense table, I hardly recognized them. Michael had lost weight and had deep, dark circles under his eyes. Vanessa looked haggard and nervous. The stress of knowing they were facing years in prison had taken its toll. The prosecutor presented the case masterfully. He showed the audio recordings where they planned to drive me crazy. He presented the evidence of the credit card fraud. He explained the conspiracy with the document forger. And finally, he showed the proof of the fraudulent mortgage on my house. But the most shocking moment came when Sarah took the stand as a witness for the prosecution. "Miss Sarah," the prosecutor asked her, "can you tell us what you heard when your parents were discussing their plans for your grandmother?" With a firm and clear voice, Sarah narrated every conversation, every plan, every betrayal. She described how they had planned to change my medications, how they had calculated how much money they would get from my death, and how they had decided to blame her if everything went wrong. When she finished testifying, the silence in the courtroom was deafening. I saw several jurors wiping tears from their eyes. The defense attorney tried to discredit Sarah, suggesting she was lying to get money from me. "Miss, isn't it true that you are pregnant and need money?" he asked aggressively. "Yes, I am pregnant," Sarah responded with dignity. "And yes, I need help, but I'm not lying to get it. I'm telling the truth because it's the right thing to do. And isn't it convenient that your grandmother has promised to help you financially in exchange for your testimony? My grandmother didn't promise me money in exchange for my testimony, Sarah replied firmly. She promised me support because I finally had the courage to do the right thing. There's a difference. When it was my turn to testify, I took the stand, feeling the weight of all eyes in the courtroom on me. Mrs. Martha, the prosecutor asked me, "Can you tell us how you felt when you discovered your family's plans?" I felt as if I had lived a lie for 45 years, I replied. They not only betrayed me, they made me question every moment of love I thought I had shared with them. They made me wonder if I was ever anything more than an obstacle between them and my money. "And how do you feel now? Now I feel free," I said, looking directly at Michael. "Free from the lies, free from the manipulation, and free from the obligation to love people who never truly loved me." The defense attorney tried to portray me as a vengeful, wealthy woman who was exaggerating the situation. "Mrs. Martha, isn't it true that you have millions of dollars that you never mentioned to your family?" "It's true that I have resources they were unaware of," I admitted. "But those resources do not justify conspiring to drive me insane, stealing my identity, or forging legal documents. Don't you think your family deserved to know about that money?" "Deserved why? For planning my forced institutionalization, for robbing me for months, for betraying me in the cruelest way possible." The trial lasted 5 days. In the end, the jury deliberated for just 2 hours before returning with a unanimous verdict, guilty on all counts. Michael was sentenced to 12 years in prison for conspiracy, fraud, document forgery, and elder abuse. Vanessa received 10 years for the same charges, plus additional charges for mortgage fraud. When the judge read the sentences, Vanessa collapsed in tears. Michael just stared straight ahead with an empty expression. After the trial, as we were leaving the courthouse, a reporter asked me, "Mrs. Martha, do you feel that justice has been served?" "I feel that legal justice has been served," I replied. But the real justice was discovering who I truly was before it was too late to enjoy the rest of my life. 6 months later, I bought a beautiful house on the outskirts of the city. It's smaller than my old house, but it's full of light and has a lovely garden where Sarah and I spend our afternoons. Sarah finished high school with honors and decided to keep the baby. She's now studying law, inspired by everything we went through together. She says she wants to specialize in elder protection. "Grandma," she said to me a few weeks ago, as we were working in the garden, "do you ever regret adopting Dad?" "I don't regret adopting him," I replied, stroking the flowers we had planted together. "I only regret not understanding sooner that kindness should never be practiced at the cost of self-destruction." And what did you learn from all of this? I learned that real family is not defined by blood or years shared. It's defined by mutual respect, genuine loyalty, and unconditional love. I learned that it's better to be alone with dignity than accompanied by betrayal, and I learned that it's never too late to start over. Now, at 71, I am living the fullest life I have ever had. I travel, I read, I have new friends, and above all, I have a genuine relationship with my granddaughter who has become the daughter of my heart that I always wanted. Michael and Vanessa have tried to contact me from prison several times, but their letters go straight into the trash unopened. Some doors once closed should never be opened again. Every night before I go to sleep, I give thanks for 3 things. For Dr. Evans, who had the courage to warn me. For my own strength, which I didn't know I had. And for discovering that endings can also be beginnings if you have the courage to write your own story. Kindness is still important in my life, but now I practice it with wisdom. I help other seniors facing similar situations. I support Sarah in her studies, and I have created a foundation to prevent elder abuse. But more importantly than all of that, I finally learned to love myself as much as I loved others throughout my life. And that, my dears, is the most valuable lesson of all.